Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. He'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived.
To demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived.
To demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand the truth.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Hope all is well. Let's see what's going on today. We're here, the 30th, almost the end of the month. One more day to go after today. Virgo, that's the sign. Yesterday I had trouble between the signs. Today I know for sure. Virgo, Earth sign. Earth sign's all about how to take and make practical use of the energies that are around you. The Hermit is the tarot card that represents the card of Virgo. The Hermit is the one who goes into solitude, not in order just to be away from people, but in order to learn, in order to go and gather information that's going to be helpful to the people. And then the Hermit comes forward with that information and shines the light high. So the Hermit and the idea of Virgo has the idea of teaching, helping others. Healers are part of that. Those who have compassion for others, the nursing field, the medical profession, fit within that. So those are the ideas along with Virgo, reaching out to others, helping others, shining a light for them to see. We have a square going on later tonight. And it's a square between Venus and Virgo. Okay, a square is a lesson. For Venus is love and imagination. So we have this idea of Virgo and the lessons of Virgo having to do with love and imagination, running into a lesson there. Virgo also represents, the ideas of patience, timing are implied within there. If we take all the ideas of Virgo and run them up against the wall and see that those ideas of Virgo are going to run into a challenge and a lesson dealing with our own imagination and creativity and love, then that's what we got going on later tonight. Okay, the moon phase, 17% of the way full, almost back to the new moon. Mayan Oracle, we're at the 13th tone, the last day of this wave spell of the star. It's a jumping day. 13s are jumping days because the way the system works, you go 1 through 13 and you begin again, over and over and over again. Okay, the middle here is the kin. It's the sun for today, so the 13th sun, or 13th tone called the cosmic tone. So today is the cosmic sun, guided by the symbol right here, which is the seed. Okay, enlightenment, flowering. So cosmic is, the phrase for today is I endure in order to enlighten, transcending life. I seal the matrix of universal fire with the cosmic tone of presence. I am guided by the power of flowering. And then today's a galactic activation portal day, meaning that the energies are amplified because we have the very first point here, the last column, last row. Okay, so there's a synchronicity there of those energy points, and therefore it is becoming called the galactic activation portal day. Spaceweather.com. Solar wind is currently at 358.9 kilometers per second. Planetary K index is in the 3 range. Alright, we have a few spaces here, nothing big corona hole wise, but we do see some openings that are occurring there. We'll see how that unfolds. M-class flares up to 60%, X-class to 25%, and geomagnetic storm activity 35% if you're in the higher latitudes, 45% over the next 24 hours activity in the lower latitudes. Mid-latitudes, alright? Here is our suspicious observers report for today. Here we go. Perhaps, if I can get to it. Alright. Now, here we go.
Good morning, folks. We're looking at the JPL orbital diagram for C-2012 S1 ISON. The comet is just 2 days from crossing as close as it will come to Earth's orbital pathway. Now, Earth won't get there until January 15th, but the comet will cross just north of our eventual trajectory, which is the reason we were worried about debris. It's certainly headed up and away out on its path out of the solar system, assuming it survives perihelion. But when we have meteor showers annually from 100-year-old comets, one had to point out that close intersection and wonder about a breakup of the comet. But it didn't happen. She's tight, she's brightening, the comet is sticking together, and the most we should see mid-January is a nice dusting of shooting stars. The focus now shifts to the slingshot around the sun. Quick news shots. This is almost a facepalm. Military forced to admit the aluminum silica spraying after one such release was blatantly screwing with weather radar. It is meant to screw with radar for enemy-guided missiles. I bet someone inside said, YouTube's going to have a field day with this one. Something for the high-energy buffs? New X-ray detector in their subtlest form, about to lift off and start snapping. Coming to the RSOE, where sarin gas leaked from a munition at the Bluegrass Army Depot. Not cool. Following the 7.2 earthquake in the Philippines, a new sinkhole has opened up and is growing. Meanwhile, to the south, we have a mass fish die-off. Now, locals say algae causes a minor kill at the same time every year, but that this is definitively different on a massive scale. I think one of the best things Dr. Phillips does with his time is Earth-to-Sky calculus. I'm big on STEM initiatives and pretty much anything that makes kids realize how cool this stuff is. You remember that article about solar and cosmic radiation actually affecting airline passengers? This is not a joke, especially with our weakening magnetosphere and general atmospheric collapse. So, they sent up a dosimeter, and at mid-latitude the radiation way up is only about 20 times what you get on the ground. But we are more worried about the polar flights. We worry about high latitude due to the funneling of energy from space to the polar region via our magnetic shield. Now we can monitor that radiation, at least in the northern hemisphere. And I'm showing the current high-energy proton flux and D-region absorption prediction, showing our current energetic elevated particles being funneled to the poles. That lighter equatorial signature of the sun, which responds to flaring, we'll see in a moment. Using such indices, we now see the 5, 11, and 15 kilometer elevation dose ranges for passengers, both as a sheet overlay here and as a vertical slice for specific popular transpolar flights. This is going to be one to watch moving forward. So what about the earthquakes? Yesterday I promised an uptick and even let myself go a bit Heath Ledger with a here we go. So let's start with the space weather, which finally ramped enough to wake the KP index and show energy effect on the magnetometers and electron flux. Then there's the continued solar explosions. Another X-class blast, not going to pop an Earth-directed CME, but hey, if we see it, the radiation technically affects Earth. This is the DRAP during that flare. So that's one of the factors hitting on all cylinders. Then we have the planets. Mercury can join Saturn and is about to join the Sun. Saturn will do so in early November, and the planets, that makes 2. Last but not least, we see the formerly Earth-facing group of coronal holes and the next incomers. But website members who saw the evening news last night remember me calling out their missing piece. That purple right there is the start of them fixing their model to include this coronal hole extension to almost an Earth-facing position, that bigger dark area on the limb being what that chart actually showed. So, with all the factors present and relevant, we've already had 2 6-pointers, one way south and the other in Chile. Had to laugh a bit at the moderate Japan quake, the China or the Russia border quake. Anyone just want to go ahead and call that the North Korean border? A couple others worth watching as well. Sunspots and shots of our star to close. Eyes open. No fear. It's 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
All right. You know, every time the news is played and you hear another story, it just almost confirms people should just be listening to conspiracy theorists. Because over and over, every day, there seems to be something that is proven right that they have said. How long have people been talking about chemtrails and what's in there messing with things? Now the military admits Oh yeah, it is supposed to mess with radar. Duh, we've known that it was supposed to mess with stuff. Only the uninformed people were the ones saying, oh no, there's no effect, which usually uninformed people do, right? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that the people who know the least are the ones with the loudest voices? It happens all the time, and it's very bizarre. And then people listen to them. It's like the media. The media has the least information, and yet we're listening to them. For that matter, the president has the least information. He doesn't know what's going on, so why do we even listen to him to begin with? Right? Because then he does stuff, and it's stupid, like Obamacare. Now, many people saw right through it right at the beginning, but it took a lot of others a long time to figure it out. They just couldn't understand the first go. And probably a lot of those people who couldn't figure out the Obamacare are probably still having a hard time unraveling an instance like 9/11. So I understand, minds kind of think together, and uninformed minds usually gather together with uninformed ideas because they're afraid to look. Okay. Everybody is subject here in the United States of America to the IRS. Aaron Russo took it upon himself to find out if the IRS actually had a policy that you had to pay taxes. Not just a policy, but a law on the books. So he set out in this documentary. It's called From Freedom to Fascism. I've got the whole documentary here. I'm going to play a portion of it for you today, 10 minutes worth, and then I'm going to leave it for you so you have the link to watch the entire piece. All right? It's a very good movie. Here we go. This was the last movie that Aaron Russo made. On a journey to make a film whether or not there was a law requiring Americans to pay income tax. Was the tax and fraud being perpetrated by the American government? This process of discovery brought me something much more dangerous and frightening to my attention, and now I will bring it to yours. In 1913, America was a free country. Then a band of powerful bankers achieved their father's and great-grandfather's goal. America has never been the same. Soon the world will not be the same.
The year was 1913. Woodrow Wilson was president, and powerful banking interests, who had been trying for years, finally achieved their long-term goal of a silent coup d'etat by taking control of the American government. The first thing they did to accomplish their takeover was convince Secretary of State Philander Knox to lie to the American people and tell them that the 16th Amendment, the Income Tax Amendment, had been legally ratified by the states when it was not. The bankers knew that this tax would ultimately end up in their pockets. Because of this fraud, the American people were led to believe there was now a tax on their labor. Congress and the President are completely aware of this fraud, and it was even cited in a recent court case. That very same year, the bankers committed their second and by far the most diabolical fraud ever perpetrated on the American people by bribing senators to pass the Federal Reserve Act without the required constitutional amendment.
All in favor, say aye.
They did this during Christmas vacation, when many senators were home celebrating their holidays with their families. And that's how the unconstitutional Federal Reserve Act came into being. They were very clever, and they understood that whoever issued the money for America would control the government. The bankers won, and the American people lost, because most politicians will sell their soul for $1. and now the Federal Reserve could issue dollars legally. As Mayor Rothschild said, "Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws." He knew that he and the other bankers would now control the laws of the nation. Government gave these bankers one of its most important powers, and now had to borrow money from them and pay interest to finance the government. So the American people were forced to lower their standard of living and pay a graduated income tax to the government, just so the government could give these bankers more profits. President Woodrow Wilson, who signed the Federal Reserve Act into law, later said, in regret, "I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is now controlled by its system of credit. We are no longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men."
The Federal Reserve was created by Congress in 1913, and it was entrusted with the power granted originally to the Congress by the U.S. Constitution to coin money and regulate the value thereof.
What's your name?
Jan Crafting?
Hi, Jen. I'm Aaron Russo. I produced the movie
Is
Trading.
this a joke? Am I going to
No, it's not a joke.
Okay, good.
No. I produced the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and The Rose with Bette Midler, many movies, and I'm doing a feature film. And my film is about my quest to find out whether or not people pay income taxes. Do you pay an income tax?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a law that requires you to pay an income tax?
Have I ever read it? You mean in the page, black and white? No, no.
So you pay the income tax, I assume?
Of late. Well, actually, no, I didn't file last year, but I'm sorry, is this on film? No, I paid my taxes.
My question to you is, have you ever seen a law that says you have to pay an income tax?
The law is that guy that wears that badge and a gun. That's the one that puts you in jail. That's the law.
Actually, I can't stand the IRS. They're evil.
Do you have any fear of the IRS?
Not really, because I'm Canadian.
I think it's actually unconstitutional, is what I've heard.
Right.
But to avoid any hassle, I pay it.
If there was no law and I wasn't afraid of them coming and taking me to jail, absolutely, I wouldn't pay taxes.
Okay, then no, I wouldn't pay income taxes.
It's a no-brainer. You wouldn't pay it.
I wouldn't pay it.
Why would anybody?
Because that's what they tell us we must do, else we're bad Americans.
Would you pay it?
No.
Would you pay it?
No. Why would you pay taxes if you're an actor?
What if I told you that all your money that the income tax that's paid into the income tax just goes to pay the interest on the national debt?
That's incredible. That's truly incredible. I thought it was for infrastructure and all the other stuff.
The income tax is not legal because it would be a direct tax and it is not apportioned as the Constitution demands.
If it's against the Constitution, then why are we doing it?
Right there, and right now it's going over a long list, so if you just heard the music and you've not seen the video, it's just a long list of taxes that we have to pay, and just list just goes on and on and on. Anyway, watch the movie. Very, very good piece throughout. You learn a lot of stuff if you haven't already heard this about the IRS and what's going on with the system. All right? UFO news is up next. Here we go.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. Today I have 4 stories. First story here. Village watches a UFO zigzag through the sky, then land on a hill in Vicuna, Chile. All right, there's our object in question here, and put it in proximity to the land. The case involving a strange object that fell on a hill in Vicuna is already being studied by ufologist Christian Russo. Russo is one of the respected in Chile. Notes that the incident is reminiscent of the famous Palajuano UFO. For the first time, it's a UFO, Christian Russo says unequivocally, a journalist and one of the most experienced Chilean ufologists regarding the strange sighting and crash of what remains, for the moment, an unidentified flying object. That is to say, a UFO. There are many people, not just one in different parts of Vicuna, who claim to have seen an object zigzagging across the sky and losing altitude around 1600 hours before crashing into a hilltop in Vicuna's La Compagnon sector. The research notes that the sighting is very interesting because it meets characteristics such as reports of several witnesses and some photos from people who tracked the trajectory of the fall and photographed the crash site, prompting the interest of the UFO research community and the national and even international level. In terms of explanation, some researchers from Santiago have already begun to ask questions on the matter and look into the images. Unfortunately, the initial photographs are very far away, but it is a case that deserves investigation. There is more than one witness, and that is very interesting. There are people in Vicuna proper and others closer to the site. Alright, so there you go. That's the first one. Next story. This was over Amsterdam, the 28th. Here we have a triangle, but this is a unique one because this is white in color, as you can see. New footage of a bright triangular-shaped object flying across the sky above Amsterdam, the capital most populous city of Netherlands. This was taken on Monday the 28th. And again, it brings up a good point. Is this real or CGI? Computer graphic imaging. Alright, was this created on a computer or was this the real deal? And with the technology these days, we really have to give a close look at these things so we're not fooled. Okay, here's a story. This has to do with a book. UFOs in History, Latin America and Spain. UFOs by History is by no means, well, let me back up. It says, we are pleased to present the final installment of the Insplicata series in monographs, UFOs in History, Latin America and Spain, which rounds out the information we wanted to make available to the public in a more accessible form than random entries scattered across the internet. The Spanish-speaking world can be a boast of a UFO paranormal history that is rich as any other region of the planet. Going as far back as the 17th century, perhaps even more, sightings of unexplained objects, encounters with bizarre creatures, and other oddities have filled the pages of periodicals and books. Truth is stranger than fiction. UFOs in History is by no means an exhaustive and is simply a quick reference guide giving the reader a wealth of cases available to researchers in Spanish-speaking regions of the world going back to colonial times in the Americas and prehistoric times in Spain. While it borrows sections from other works that are no longer in print, there is enough material to make it a worthwhile read. And you got a link down here if you want to check out some of it. You can click on the scribe link, and it only gives you like a portion of the pages here you could see. So I don't know if you have to join or sign in or something here. Alright, but that's the link for the story here. Check it out. And the very last UFO piece today is, this is from a piece called Stranger at the Pentagon. This is about Frank Stranges. In the story, he met a Captain Valiant Thor from Venus. And this is his story about that. This really happened. It happened in Washington, D.C. And here you get a chance to hear what went on. Here we go.
Welcome to another Let's Talk Paranormal, and boy do we have a show for you today. Every single one of us has some kind of a story to share. But for my special studio guest today, Dr. Frank Stranges, he has a rather unique story to tell, because during 1950s, he claims to have met a man from Venus. Yes, you heard me correctly, a man from Venus named Val Thor. And guess what? It's all documented in this book, Stranger at the Pentagon. And in it, Dr. Frank tells us exactly who Val Thor is, why he's here, and there's even photographs to prove his existence. Dr. Frank, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Tracy.
This really is a real-life day the Earth stood still, isn't it?
Yes, plus. And here, coming toward me with his right hand outstretched, the man whose picture I've been carrying around with me for over a year.
Wow.
He said, "Hello, Frank, how are you?" And I thought, how in the Sam Hill does he know my name? And he knew from that time forward, the moment I touched his fingers, his skin was as soft as a baby.
Right.
And I did turn his hand over. He had no fingerprints on either hand, as bald as a peeled boiled egg. And I questioned him on that later, which he told me. And he asked me questions, just a few questions, but I asked him more questions. And he told me more about my own life than my parents and grandparents put together, which I verified later on.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "What is your name?" He said, "Valiant Thor."
There's something special about Val that, you know, you've already mentioned about having no fingerprints.
Yes.
He has no navel.
No, he has no navel and he has no fingerprints. This is why I believe he falls in the category of a created being, just like an angelic being.
Mm-hmm.
And he's unique in his way, believe you me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other members of his crew and the members of his staff, they all have navels.
Right. But being a created being, of course,
right.
He wouldn't.
But they don't have any fingerprints either.
Right.
Unique in that manner.
Wow. Let's take a look at the next picture and see what we have.
This is Commander Valiant Thor. That's exactly what he looked like when the photo was taken by August Roberts some years before,
mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what he looks like today. He hasn't changed one iota.
Val, just getting back to Val, where is he today?
Valiant Thor today is on board Victor 1, his spacecraft, not too far from the waterline of Lake Mead, Nevada, not too far from Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
He's there with his entire complement.
Right. And I believe that in your book you have a map of where Lake Mead is.
The area, yes.
Right.
We also have a sketch of the interior of the ship.
Right. And is the ship underneath the waterbed? Is it on
It's
top?
right on the shoreline. Now, it's surrounded by a force field, and the only way you could possibly find that ship is if you look for a row of a circle of dead insects, but the wind would probably drive them away by the time you got there.
Right. So is there a depression there, sort of like a crop circle depression? Or?
You won't see it.
You wouldn't see it.
No, because it's heavy gravel.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, Dr. Frank, I have to thank you for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
There have been still so many questions that we haven't been able to ask you today, but hopefully you'll come back.
I most certainly will.
And we'll ask you more.
All right, very interesting. So, if you do a search on the internet, you can find much more lengthy pieces about him talking about Val Thor and the whole deal. So, fascinating. Check it out. See what you think on your own. And let's get some more news. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA.
All right, here we go. Continuing on. All right. NSA chief says phone records were swept up as part of a NATO defense program. Oh, now I understand. See, they weren't really spying on Americans. It was part of a NATO program. Silly us for thinking that they were spying on us. The director of the National Security Agency says millions of phone records of European citizens were swept up as part of a NATO program to protect alliance members' nations in military operations. General Keith Alexander told the House Intelligence Panel Tuesday that the U.S. did not collect the European records alone, as was reported over the last week, to an outcry of criticism across Europe. Alexander said NSA slides of the phone program outlined intelligence that the U.S. was given from NATO partners. He also disputed that the program targeted European citizens, but did not offer specifics. The U.S. has been under fire over the last week over reports of intrusive spying on European citizens. Alexander denied those reports. It would appear to be that there's a little bit more outrage over there in Europe about the spying. In America, you see, the leaders in America, they don't bring it up so much. You know why? Because see, they know. They know what's going on. Or at least Obama, he easily can say, oh, I don't know what's going on. NSA? What? Do we have an agency called NSA? You know, he can play stupid. He's really good at it, too, because he's obviously not very informed on a lot of subjects and just pretends he doesn't know. So, don't you feel better knowing that it was part of a NATO program? See, they really aren't spying. They're our friends. They just want to gather information so that if they, want to call us, then they know what to talk about with us, because then they'll have a variety. They'll jump right in. I know who you are, where you're from, what you like. I guess that would be the only explanation. I don't know. Now, remember the Obama birth certificate issue? See, this thing's not done yet. Not by a long shot. Here's a piece that says, under seal, document expert identifies Obama birth certificate forger, says media executives are involved. Who could have saw that coming, huh? Says, come now Douglas Voigt, pursuant to the obligations placed upon him by 18 U.S.C. 4 and 2382 upon both his public and sealed affidavits attached hereto, and gives the requisite notice of the commission of felonies under treason by the following described persons cognizable by the Court of the United States and pursuant to the local rules. 5. Move to the court for an order sealing his attached envelope containing the sealed affidavit marked with the case caption and the phrase filed under seal, states as follows. It says, in sum, the attached publicly affidavit of Douglas Voigt demonstrates that forensic evidence establishes beyond a reasonable doubt that the two certificates of live birth, which Barack Hussein Obama II has publicly released, or has released, and 2, his publicly released, establishes constitutional eligibility. Moreover, upon the accompanying sealed affidavit of Douglas Voigt, the identity of the person who actually forged these, and the identities of those who assisted in their perpetration of the most significant fraud upon the people of the United States is clearly detailed and warranted in the immediate referral of this matter to a specifically impaneled federal grand jury. And if we look down here, persons involved, Barack Hussein Obama. His name's first. But wait, he'll just say he didn't know anything about this. Or he already said that, right? I think so. Former White House counsel Robert Baer, White House Director of Communications Dan Pfeiffer, Private Counsel Judith Corley, former Hawaiian DOH Director Dr. Jerome Vicuna, Hawaii Governor Neil Abercrombie, Hawaii DOH Director Loretta Foote, John Doe No. 1 in the Hawaii's DOH Registrar Office, NBC News Savannah Guthrie, John Doe No. 2, 3, and 4 top executives at General Electric, National Broadcasting Company, and executive producer of The Today Show, who arranged for Savannah Guthrie to see the Obama certificate and to have her certify with a non-existent health official. The seal was on it. John Doe No. 5, an NBC executive who arranged Savannah Guthrie's promotion to The Today Show. So you could see it's implicating journalists, media personalities. Again, who could have saw that coming? only all the alternative media that's been pointing out saying they've been lying, that's who. Again, people should just listen to the alternative media. They should listen to what conspiracy theorists have to say, because over and over they're being proven right. You know what I'm talking about, because you're seeing the same information, right? Now, we know that the president is a puppet. We know that the president before him was a puppet. The office of presidency in the United States is an office of the puppet, the great puppet of this country, just like other countries are puppets. And how did he get to be the puppet? In 1913, freedom to fascism. See how important it is that we understand our history? Because in 1913, the Federal Reserve took over. They call the shots. They pay the money to buy off and pay for the presidencies. Presidents aren't elected, they are selected. The popular vote does not get the president in. The popular vote just makes it easier for the powers that be to slide their person into power because the people are agreeing with them. All that's necessary to get the popular vote is to have enough propaganda, have the media and have the commercials and television shows all give the proper amount of propaganda. Like Hollywood has received a $500,000 grant to start slipping Obamacare propaganda into television shows, that kind of propaganda. Okay? So, unless we look behind the scenes, we're going to be constantly blaming the person in front. Should we be blaming the person in front, the president? Absolutely. The buck should stop with the president. He should be making those decisions. Okay? What Obama's doing right now is just disgraceful for a president. That's a person who doesn't have any sense of responsibility. Or, in addition to that, he's somebody that is just not being allowed to say anything because he's just a puppet. Either way, he knew what he was getting in for. They all do when they get to that position. So they're part of the problem. Now this piece right here says the Rothschild bloodline. This is very important because the Rothschild family is the family that is directly involved with this Federal Reserve. And you go down here and you see here it says family from Azaria controls all banks around the world, including the Federal Reserve, Bank of America, Treasury Department, IRS. Okay, and you see a nice little hierarchy here. It says the Rothschild's secret wealth records have never been audited and never accounted for. Researchers estimate the wealth is close to $500 trillion, more than half the wealth of the entire world, palaces, wineries, horse races, resorts, and mansions. The Rothschilds bought Reuters in the 18th century. Reuters then brought the AP, which selects and delivers the same news stories for the entire world day after day. Okay, just in case you need me to reiterate what I just said, the Rothschilds bought Reuters and AP, two of the big news sources that we have. Not only in this country but around the world are Reuters and AP. Every day news is taken from these wire services. The Rothschilds bought them. Okay? Rothschilds, Federal Reserve, AP, Reuters. Connecting the dots? That's why there isn't any truth out there, because they're hiding the truth. Okay, if we continue on down here, it says they have controlling interests in 3 major television networks. Until recently, they owned and operated England's Royal Mint and continued to be gold agent for the Bank of England, which they also direct. They control the LBMA, which is the London Bullion Market Association, where 30 to 40 million ounces of gold worth over $11 trillion are traded daily. The Rothschilds earn millions weekly just on transaction fees alone. They also fix the world price of gold on a daily basis and profit from its ups and downs. Over the centuries, the Rothschilds have amassed trillions of dollars of gold bullion in their subterranean vaults. Okay. The Israel Supreme Court is the most powerful court in the world. They are the head of the court system in Israel and wield the most power. A ruling of the Supreme Court is binding in every other court. The court has ruled of some very important issues, including the Israeli-Palestine conflict, rights of Arab citizens of Israel, and a discrimination between Jews and Israel. It is also worth noting that the Supreme Court can intervene in Israel Defense Forces military operations. Okay? And then here we have Lord Rothschild in his book, The Shadow of a Great Man, quotes a letter from Davison on June 24th, 1814, to Nathan Rothschild. As long as the house is like yours, and as long as you work together with your brothers, not a house in the world will be able to compete with you, to cause you harm or take advantage of you. For together you can undertake and perform more than any house in the world. So you can go down here and you can just read. There's a whole history of how they have corrupted this nation, and it's greed. It's all about greed, and we need to understand who's behind the scenes. Yes, we want to be aware of the puppets in office, but we also want to look behind the scenes. We don't want to be so distracted that we forget to look at really who's causing the problem, because then we'll catch the puppet. The puppet will be yelled at, but we want to know who the puppet master is. In this case, Federal Reserve is causing a lot of problems around the world. There's been those who've been screaming about the Federal Reserve. Ron Paul. But he got pushed aside. People didn't like that because Mitt Romney and others like the Federal Reserve. Bernanke likes the Federal Reserve. Obama likes the Federal Reserve. And none of these people that I just named, the last couple ones, except for Ron Paul, what we've come to understand is none of those people like America. So they like the Federal Reserve, but they don't like America. Seeing how the pieces fit together? They're not good people. Not good people. Okay. Technology's moving ahead, literally, and here's a chance for you to strap an iPhone to your head. Right there, look at that. Put one of these puppies that says MER-KA-BA is an iPhone and EEG headband that automatically records footage of things that interest you. Advertisers would love you to wear it. Of course they would. Google Glass too expensive and unobtrusive for you? How about strapping an iPhone to your head? That's not quite the idea behind MER-KA-BA, a prototype wearing technology from Japan, but it does involve placing an iPhone next to your scalp. Many people walk around with smartphones glued to their ears anyway, so radiation be damned. This rig comes with a brainwave scanner and will record what interests you. Attached to a headband, the iPhone is fitted with a prism so camera can grab footage from your point of view. Meanwhile, the EEG scans your brain activity, correlates spikes in interest with the camera footage. The tech is similar to that seen in Nikomi, the headband cat ears from Japan that react to your brainwaves. Keio University's Yasu Mitsukara helped develop the simple brainwave meter. The MER-KA-BA iPhone app assigns a value from 1 to 100 for the EEG data and the footage, and when it's over 60, the camera starts recording. The footage goes into an album of 5-second GIFs. You'll be able to record what piqued your interest. Of course, most of us can remember what we find interesting, but advertisers would love to get a hold of that. So it's no surprise that Japanese advertising giant Dentsu is backing the NeuroScan through a joint venture called Dentsu Science Jam. Okay, so, these technologies, on one hand, they're good because there is a convenience factor we want. We like that we are targeted with advertisement, that we can go and we don't have to weed through things. On one hand, it's good. It's just the problematic NSA that we don't like. It's knowing that people are spying on that information. Because if everyone around the world was putting information into system and the information was going in and just like going in one ear and out the other and just not being recorded, not being monitored, we wouldn't care because we'd all be trading information that would go back. It's helping to keep this world moving as we are moving forward with our technology. Okay? We like the benefits. We don't like being spied upon. So if we could get rid of one thing, then we'd be all right with the other. Unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword, and as long as we have people in the world, see, it's not the technology that's bad. It's corrupt individuals in the world that find the technology and want to use it for corrupt ways. Nikola Tesla wanted his technology to be used to help bring people who were in parts of the world with bad weather that could help them to grow food and be beneficial to them. The military gets the same technology. They want to use it as a weapon. Okay, on and on. That's what we do in this country. We like to blow things up. I don't know why, but that's what our country likes to do. All right. Let's jump over here. I want to go back to this article again on the MER-KA-BA because this is quite lengthy, and yesterday we went over part 1 I'm going to go over part 2 today, okay? Just a refresher, part 1. Part 1 is dealing with breathing. All of this is breathing. There's 6 breaths you're going to take with part 1. First breath, you're going to go and you're going to touch your first finger and your thumb together. You're going to do your breath. As you breathe up, you're going to send your eyes looking upward, imagining that there's a triangle with a point over your head. You're going to turn your eyes upward. You're going to hold that breath for 5 seconds, and then you're going to exhale. And as you exhale, you're going to imagine seeing there's a second triangle which is pointing down. You're going to bring your eyes down and follow them down as you watch one of the points of the triangle going down to the ground. And then you're going to be exhaling on the count of 7. And then when you get to the bottom, you're going to switch fingers. Take your thumb over to the second finger. You're going to inhale again as you raise your eyes up. And you're going to hold for 5 seconds and bring your eyes down as you watch the bottom part of the triangle, the point, go down into the ground. And then you're going to go to the next finger. And you're going to do that 6 times, so you go through all of your fingers. Okay? And then after you go through part 1, now we're going to get into part 2. Part 2 is the next part, the next 7 breaths, and it's a different breathing pattern, okay? So it says you do not need to visualize the star tetrahedron at this time. Only the tube that runs through the star from the apex of the male tetrahedron above your head to the apex of the female tetrahedron below your feet. Okay, so now the second part, we're just concentrating on this here. Okay, this is the male, this is the female point. Okay, and we're just going to focus on this for the second part. So the first part's about the breathing and the visualizing around you. Now we're just going to focus on that for part number 2. Okay, this extends, so the diameter of your tube will be the size of a hole formed by your thumb and forefinger touching. So the next breath says we're going to inhale. It says we're going to visualize the tube running through our body. The instant we begin to breathe, the 7th inhale, we see a brilliant light of prana moving down the tube from the top of the tube to the bottom at the same time. Okay, so we've got 2 energies from the bottom and the top, both moving together. This movement is almost instantaneous. The points where the 2 light beams meet within your body is controlled by the mind and is a vast science known throughout the universe. In this teaching, you will only be shown what is necessary, that which will take you from the 3rd to the 4th dimensional awareness. In this case, you will direct the 2 beams of prana to meet at your navel, or more correct, within your body at the navel level, inside the tube. The moment the 2 beams of prana meet, which is just as inhale begins, a sphere of light or prana is formed at the meeting point about the size of a grapefruit centered on the tube. It all happens in an instant, and as you continue to take the inhale of the 7th breath, the sphere of prana begins to concentrate and grow slowly. Okay? And then it says for the next 7 breaths, use the same mudra for inhale, exhale, which means you touch the first finger and the second finger for the first breath, the next 2 fingers, and so on. Okay? And we're going to take 7 more breaths here, or 6 more breaths. So we got the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Okay? And as you go through these breaths, you can see you're just wanting to, the 7th breath is the prana sphere centered to navel grows. The 8th breath, it continues to concentrate life force and grow in size. The next breath, it continues to grow in size and reach maximum of your breath. By the 9th, it cannot grow larger, so what happens is it begins to concentrate within the sphere around us. And then the sphere continues to grow brighter and brighter. Okay? And it gets all the way to the point where last of the breaths says at the moment of the exhale, small sphere, 2-handed links bulges to expand in 1 second combined with the breath below your body. The sphere expands quickly out to the sphere of Leonardo, out to your tips and extended hands. Your body is now completely enclosed with a huge sphere of brilliant light as you return to the ancient form of spherical breathing. However, at this point, the sphere is not stable. You must breathe 3 more times to keep the sphere stable. At the moment of the exhale, make a small hole with your lips and blow at your air pressure. As you feel the sphere begin to bulge, all within the first second, let all of the air out rapidly, and it will expand at that moment. Okay, so again, once we get to the last breath, as the sphere begins to bulge, all within the first second of this exhale. Then we want to let the air out, and then the sphere will really expand. Okay? So that's what we're going to focus on today when we do our meditation, the second set of breathing. And before we get to that, let's jump over to our message for today. Today I have a message. This is from the High Council of Orion. High Council of Orion.
Channeled Ascension message from the High Council of Orion.
October 29, 2013, channeled by Holly Hawkins Marwood, transcribed by Paul Marwood.
You are an incredible manifester.
The High Council. Greetings, dear ones. We are the High Council of Orion. We are pleased that there is much conversation and awareness that is growing and growing on your planet at this time about how powerful your thoughts are and how your thoughts manifest things, as you've heard many times. We're going to take it, as we often like to, a little step further. For the way we see it and the way we see energy, you would gently and lovingly control your thoughts and your emotions and your opinions far more if you saw the energy physically. For we see the energy physically. We see and observe the energy of the absolute direct correlation to how your thoughts manifest instantaneously. Even if there seems to be a delay between your thoughts and the manifestation, the energy of it is already set in motion and set in place. If you saw the energy of your positive thoughts setting that energy in motion, the way it looked and the way that it creates an impossibility for those things to not happen because you have literally created them with your thoughts. The negative thoughts literally create that reality, for no reason other than you thought them, and you felt, and you have energetically put them in motion. If you could see the energy of your thoughts, you would understand that there are never any victims, that you are never at the effect of anything outside of your own realm, that you literally are creating in a moment. In one sense, it would be easier for each and every one of you to understand the correlation between thoughts and manifestation if you could see the energy, if you could see the colors, if you could see how your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your opinions really are beautiful at manifesting. So then the question is, what is it that you want to manifest? Of course there's much out there in your world, that's the beginning part of this, but we wanted to take it a step further, knowing that many of you, most of you can't see your thoughts becoming things. But trying to understand that your thoughts really are the only creator of your reality. So we invite you to look at what you say, what you think, what you feel, and how you project your opinion onto yourself and others, understanding that if it was a color, if it had a physical tangibility, you would see it happening as the words left your mouth, or as the thoughts formed in your head, or as the opinion-filled looks left your eyes. You would see how powerful you each are in your manifestation. It would allow you in a moment to become aware of how powerful you are as a manifester. We invite you to just be in observation about the words you're saying, the judgment you cast toward yourself and others, and even catch yourself to the point of saying, wow, if that was a magical drawing, what did I just draw with my words, with my thoughts, with my actions, with my opinions? If you need to, it's actually great visual to think that what comes out of your mouth, almost like a cartoon, you would say, would be drawing that into reality. Is that really the reality that you wish to have? Can you begin to catch yourself? Can you begin to slow down? Can you begin to choose another point of view? Can you edit those words before they come past your lips? Can you catch yourself in the thoughts and change them around so that they are, literally, creating the world that you wish to see? For there is no world other than the one you've created. As you move along in your timeline, as you shift your energetics to live more into this world of the unseen, you will begin to more tangibly understand and feel that cause and effect on a more refined level. Until you do, we wanted to share this information with you, which is information that's out there on your planet to some degree, but we wanted to reinforce that you are a beautiful creator. Each one of you is an incredible manifester. So what is it that you want to manifest? Be patient in your shifting and your awareness of this, for you've had many lifetimes of not understanding this. So allow yourself the time and the grace to shift and change and learn something new. Allow this awareness to seep in, and allow your awareness to see how differently you feel and how differently the world that you are creating shows up for you as you shift your awareness about yourself as the manifester. Be blessed. We are the High Council of Orion.
Alright, very nice. Very nice message. And that brings us to our angel message for today. No, it doesn't seem to be showing up. Do you see it? Anyway, let me show you here. Let's see. It says, keep communications open. There is someone who needs to speak to you or something you need to know. Okay? Keep communications open. There's someone who needs to speak to you, something you may know. And that brings us all the way to our final meditation for today. Let's go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Alright, today, let's go ahead and set our meditation. The breaths that we learned about today. So go ahead and we're going to take our first breath. So go ahead and put your thumb and your finger together, and I want you to imagine around you a sphere all around your body. So you can take a deep breath, inhale. And as you inhale, I want you to imagine light coming down from the top of that tube, from your head, moving all the way down, and through the bottom of the tube, moving up. And imagine that light as you inhale. Hold the breath. The light continues to move. And exhale slowly. And as you exhale, I want you to see that light coming together right around the belly button area. That light coming together there, and as it comes together, it becomes even brighter at that connecting point. Take your thumb and your second finger now and touch them together and inhale again. Hold it. And exhale slowly on the count of 7. And as you do, imagine the light becoming even brighter. And as it becomes brighter, it moves out from that area around your belly button and begins to feel your body. Go ahead and touch the third finger and the thumb together. Inhale. Hold. And exhale on the count of 7. And see the light getting brighter, filling more of your body. Inhale again. This time touch your little finger and your thumb together. Inhale again. Hold. And exhale on a count of 7. Seeing the light become even brighter, filling the entire body. And slowly, slowly spilling over the body and filling the sphere around you. Go ahead and touch the finger and the first finger and the thumb together again and inhale again. Hold. And exhale on a count of 7. See the light become brighter, filling this sphere, brightening even more. And touch the second finger and the thumb together and inhale again. Hold. You're going to exhale slowly and imagine this sphere bulging with light and energy. See it expanding to its maximum, filled and bright. And just hold that thought, hold that feeling. Now we're going to take one more breath. Inhale. And let's just imagine as we exhale, breathing out love into the world. And as we go throughout the day, let's just imagine surrounding ourselves with light as we move throughout the day and sending out love to those in the world around us. So we're going to inhale one more time. Hold it. And as we exhale, we're just going to slowly let the circle and the sphere around us dissipate. And we're going to bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. Begin to exhale slowly. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take one more deep breath. Exhale. Open your eyes. Shake out your arms and your legs. Wake yourself up. And that's it for today, my friends. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we'll get on to the next part of this meditation here. And that way we'll have all the parts together so we can just continue practicing that and developing the Merkabah around us. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Just remember as you go into the world, I know that sometimes I can be hard on people, and I know people around are the same way in life, that we can be very critical and so on of people who aren't getting the information out there. But you know what? I think there's a time for compassion that is required, because there's a lot of people not getting information simply because they've been fooled. And whether we want to be critical of them for being fooled or compassionate, they've been fooled, and we're all in this together. And if one person is fooled, we're all fooled. So we need to come together. We need to bond together, because we're the ones that are feeling the adverse effects of being fooled. So let's not be fooled. Let's all just help each other. Let's stop criticizing and pointing fingers, and let's just help each other so that we can all see clearly what's going on. That's the only way we're going to get through it. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.